There were two big title fights on UFC 311, but the real excitement was the battle of the two previous light heavyweight champions, Jiri Prochazka and Jamahal Hill, both of whom vacated due to injury, then were defeated by the amazing current champion Alex Pereira. Champion or not, any chance to see the most unique and original fighter the division has produced, Prochazka, try to find a way to up his record 97% finishing rate is always something to look forward to. The only problem with Jiri's near-perfect finishing record is that when you only have one win by decision out of 30, this latest highlight reel knockout only increased his finishing rate by a fraction of a percentage point. Despite this sustained greatness over a 13-year career, many people were actually writing Prochazka off now that he's lost to Alex twice in a row. Granted, Pereira's style appears to be kryptonite for Jiri's because he's such a great well-balanced technical kickboxer that Jiri hasn't had a lot of luck befuddling him with his movement or intercepting his shots the way he does to less skilled and experienced strikers. Jiri is improving his footwork and transition game by leaps and bounds though, and he made Hill look stuck in the mud. I didn't understand people thinking this January 18th match from the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, California was going to be a good matchup for Hill. He's never been a great mover, and I'm not sure he's made it back to where he was before rupturing his ACL in fighter basketball cost him his title. The overwhelming pressure and whirlwind movement of Jiri would seemingly force Hill into a ton of mistakes and expose the fact that he simply doesn't possess the speed, footwork, mobility, or conditioning to consistently put himself in the right place at the right time. That was sort of the case here, but Prochazka has improved upon and diversified his methods. Jiri was moving with more purpose today, keeping Hill off balance while simply trying to find him, which made it more likely that Hill would run into his devastating counter. Hill's strength is supposed to be his fight IQ, but he did very little of what Alex Pereira did to negate Jiri's style. Granted, it's unfair to expect Hill to suddenly become a world-class kickboxer with overwhelming power, but it's long been known that you have to attack Jiri's legs to slow him down in the long run and freeze him momentarily. Hill was able to win a close round 2 by attacking the torso, which especially on the inside, Jiri has a tough time avoiding. However, during much of round 1 and 3, he was playing right into Jiri's hands by attacking the head because it's supposedly exposed due to his hands being down. Prochazka's always been great at slipping punches. What got him into trouble in the past is he would either exit after avoiding to simply reset, or wait to see what the opponent did next. Either way, he was often forcing himself to have to defend multiple shots without making the opponent pay for throwing them. Here, he was immediately countering, which gave him a much better chance to not only land without getting hit at all, but to land big because Hill was off balance, stepping, or in the process of resetting his defenses. Jiri was mostly focusing on controlling the pace and tempo from distance, so he was largely fighting in his upright split karate stance. When he did switch to his shorter drop-down stance that leaves his head exposed with his weight heavy on the lead leg, Hill always made the mistake of attacking the head, even though what Prochazka wants to do is dodge and answer with a punch to the head that's difficult for the opponent to see because it's coming from a low angle. Jiri is both faster and quicker to the target, so this always went poorly for Hill. When Hill threw a hook to try to bring Prochazka's head closer so he could potentially clinch, Jiri beat him to the punch with a more direct straight. This resulted in a knockdown in round 1. When Hill instead threw the straight, Jiri pulled him into the right-hand counter. We didn't see as much of Jiri's crazy pace today, but he still wore Hill down mentally and physically because he had to worry about what Jiri's reaction was going to be to every move he made. Jiri's entire style was based around drawing the movement, slipping if he had to, and landing the big counter. When you're fighting the most athletic guy in the division, a guy whose legs account for much of his ability to attack and defend, you need to do more to try to slow him down than use your hands on his head a few times to either clinch or simply prevent him from coming back up from the duck down with a big counter punch. Hill did get a few knees in, but moments of good strategy didn't make up for chasing and following most of the night. Since Hill wasn't attacking the legs, Jiri was able to go at his own pace and beat him on the outside with superior speed and footwork. He set the tempo, touching or throwing an unimportant shot from orthodox, parrying or hand-trapping the stepping response with his left hand, then pouncing with the right hand while Hill was still extended. Hill was also losing the distance fight because Jiri's combination of superior speed and better footwork caused Hill to reach, lunge, and overstep to try to find his head, leaving him prone to the fast counter as he tried to reset. Jiri showed great footwork here. He was switching stances to enter and exit, to attack and defend, allowing himself to find his target quicker or stay out of harm's way while pulling Hill into his counter. The switch was part of a general explosive movement done with urgency in order to create or save himself from a big moment. You almost wouldn't even notice that he switched stances because your eyes would follow the punch or kick he was throwing when he switched. On the other hand, Hill, who was very plodding, mostly just switched stances at distance for some variance. He almost never surprised Jiri with his movement, and he was just playing catch-up whether he was lunging, reaching, or overthrowing. Jiri wasn't blitzing unless he had Hill hurt, and he wasn't trying to back Hill all that much, preferring to let Hill step into his shots. When Jiri did get Hill near the cage, he looked to lead with a high kick because Hill can't counter that and has nowhere to go. Rather than a finishing attempt, these were almost throwaway, designed to funnel Hill into his spinning back fist or elbow follow-up. Hill was always ready for this though. Hill's balance and defense were good when Jiri was trying to throw a combination. The problem is Jiri's style isn't based on him throwing in succession, it's based on countering the opponent's strike or forward movement. At distance, Jiri would either keep touching and hand trapping or try to pull Hill into his counter. This was one of the areas where his quick stance switches were very effective because he would suddenly close the distance by switching to orthodox and throwing the right hand while Hill had one foot in the air stepping forward. Hill was defending the hand trap better in the second, getting wise to Jiri's tactics by avoiding the immediate follow-up with the other hand. This round was close, but Hill finally started attacking the body in the last minute. Even though nothing major happened, with Jiri there's always a lot of activity, and it's more the dance, the movement, and the danger that makes things exciting, rather than how many strikes actually land. Much of Jiri's distance offense was predicated upon timing Hill's step, so he could switch to southpaw at the right time, bringing the right straight or kick in the process. I think Hill was expecting the right hand when Prochazka hurt him the second time. Jiri dropped down, but rather than switching stances, he came up with the left hand while Hill was circling to the right. Jiri just swarmed Hill from there. Hill did recover enough to stay in the fight, but his footwork was gone, and he was putting himself in bad positions by loading up and over-swinging, rather than getting his feet to the spot where Prochazka was in range. Hill was so overextended when he missed a big right hook that he was no longer even facing Jiri. Prochazka immediately nailed him with a left cross Hill had no chance of defending because he was still sideways. Surprisingly, it wasn't nap time for Jamahal just yet, but again Jiri smelled blood in the water and was just swarming him in stand-up and on the ground until Mike Beltran had to jump in. Jiri was definitely creating chaos in round 3 because he hurt Hill twice, but in this fight, he largely stayed disciplined otherwise. I think this was Prochazka's best and most mature performance, as he was technical and patient until he created an opening he could pounce on. A very good match that should have been fight of the night instead of Merab Dvalishvili versus Umar Nurmagomedov.